Welcome. I'm Harmony Slater, your host of the Finding Harmony podcast. Over the past 20 years, I've taught thousands of yoga teachers and students to explore the intersection between ancient wisdom and modern everyday life, using mind-body practices to heal, awaken, and manifest their dreams from the inside out. This podcast is a sanctuary for those feeling overwhelmed by life's challenges. Are you ready to jump in and discover how these challenges aren't actually in the way, but are the way to finding harmony? Let's invite the magic back in. So today we are diving into the incredible world of intuition, psychic abilities, and energy healing with none other than my incredible guest, Lisa Campion. Lisa is a master psychic. She's a medium, also a master Reiki practitioner and facilitator and teacher. She is also the best-selling author of 4 books, The Art of Psychic Reiki, Awakening Your Psychic Ability, Energy Healing for Empaths, and her accompanying Psychic Awakening Journal. With over 3 decades of experience supporting sensitive souls and seekers, as well as her own clients, mentoring healers coming up in the field, Lisa has a gift for making the unseen both practical and yet still keeping it profound. So I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. We are going from 3D to 5D, and I'm asking all of the questions that right now you are thinking. We are going to really start to uncover what it means to be psychic and the difference between Reiki, quantum healing, how distance healing works, are psychic abilities real? What are these energies or spirits or ghosts or guides that people are tuning into? We are going to explore all of these topics in a way that I hope leaves you feeling incredibly grounded and safe, and maybe even curious about what your own psychic abilities are, what your own intuition is telling you, and hopefully a little bit more trusting of your intuition as well. Curious and trusting. That's where I want to leave you with this conversation. So we're going to talk about some ways that you can protect your energy, how you can clear your energy field, and what it really means to live from the wisdom of your soul. So if you've ever felt maybe a little bit too sensitive for this world, or that you had a strong intuition but you weren't sure how to develop it, this episode is for you. You are going to love this conversation. It is a beautiful place to begin a deeper exploration of many things that are unexplainable. Let's jump right in. Hi, welcome. I'm so excited you're here, and I'm going to have an amazing conversation today with my guest, Lisa Campion. How are you, Lisa?
I'm doing so well. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm super happy to be here.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. I cannot wait for this conversation. So tell our listeners just a little bit about how you got into the art of psychic Reiki and energy healing and teaching people about how to tune into their psychic abilities. This sounds like quite the journey.
Yeah, and it's such a weird story. I was born psychic, so I kind of came out of the womb that way. And I was born in the 60s in New England, just outside Boston. And back then, people weren't having this conversation. You know what I mean? There was no talking about it. There was no podcasts, no books in the library, no internet.
But the 60s were also an interesting time too, in that people were interested in transcendental meditation and some new age type healing arts and stuff.
It's funny you should say that. My parents were hippies, and they did take me to transcendental meditation when I was 10, because that's what you did when you were hippie in 1974. They weren't drag me to the church and throw holy water on me, but they were oh, you have such a good imagination, And I was like, yeah, is it my imagination? Is that what this is? But I was experiencing the full on thing. I was seeing I called them the gray people, the dead people sitting on my bed in the middle of the night. And of course, like Murphy's Law, I grew up in one of those super big Victorian houses we have here in New England. The house could have like auditioned for a spot in a horror movie, like horror movie house. It was like a creepy old Victorian. And I was seeing angels and shadow spirits and colors around people, the full thing. And I think I spent a lot of my time just trying to figure out what was going on. What is this? What's happening to me? What do I do about it? How do I turn it off? How do I make sense of it? And then trying to pretend to be normal in public, just so I wouldn't get bullied at school. And then it was the 80s, and I went into university, and that was the dawn of the New Age. Thank God. And all of a sudden, there was like New Age bookstores and psychic teachers, and I got some really good training. And that's actually when I started working as a psychic. So I was only 19.
Wow.
Yeah, I was 19.
Wow.
It was 1980, whatever. And I quickly learned that I didn't actually have enough skill to help people. So after I graduated from university, I went back to school and became a therapist. And for a long time, I combined therapy with psychic readings. That was a great combination. And then in 1999, I learned Reiki, and I sort of added Reiki to my toolkit.
So this is so interesting because I think it would be a common misperception that if you have these gifts and abilities that you would immediately know how to use them or how to help people with them. And yet you didn't really know how to really help people. What was that like? Can you give me an example of something that happened where you're like, oh shit?
Absolutely. I had a lot of oh shit moments. And I was a pretty good psychic sort of right out of the bat. And I remember sitting in this session, and a lady needed a message from her son who passed away. And, I could deliver the message, but then she started to cry. And I was like, I don't know what to do.
Right.
Because I was 19. I mean, you still have your head up your, when you're 19, right? So at least I did. And I was like, oh my goodness, I need more skills. I need more skills in how to handle people, how to deal with grief, how to deal with trauma. Because I would tell my psychic teacher, and I still say this today, nobody ever comes to my office because they're having a good day.
Yeah, they want some answers or some guidance, and they're feeling lost.
On a good day. On a bad day, they're suicidal, they have depression, they have anxiety, like they can't leave the house, they have addiction problems.
Yeah.
They've lost somebody, they're in the middle of a spiritual crisis. That's actually more realistic to what I see in a week of clients. Mm-hmm. So I just figured that out really fast, and I was like, okay, I need more to fill in like the not psychic skills of how to help people who come for the work.
Yeah, and therapy feels like a really aligned choice. Also, because I think a lot of people who have these abilities are also very empathetic humans, it seems. And also people who go into therapy tend to be very empathetic humans as well. So it seems very aligned.
It was. And it was still pretty much in the 80s. There wasn't much back then. There wasn't really alternative programs available. And I found an alternative kind of therapy to study because I knew a traditional therapeutic program wouldn't. They'd be like, you're out. Like you should be in a mental hospital. You should not be a therapist. Like if you're talking to angels and seeing angels and talking to dead Uncle Fred, that's a psychiatric issue.
Right.
So I actually studied with the psychosynthesis folks. They're the precursor to internal family systems and sort of the originators of parts work and subpersonality stuff. And so it was a really good match for where I was at and what was available at the time.
And so then what drew you into Reiki as a practice, as a healing modality?
Well, I've been working for quite a while with my psychic therapy combination, and I'm a pretty good medical intuitive. So I would see like a lot of what was going on in the body. And I just really started to see people's energy field. I'd be like, what's all that gray, cloudy stuff over there? Why is there all this sort of green, smoky thing over your heart? I see this stuff leaking sideways out of your heart. I'm like, what is that? And my friend said, well, you should study Reiki because you'll learn a lot about the energy field, about how to work with energy and how to understand the human energy field. And it was 1999 when I learned Reiki, which back then it was still pretty weird. Like I've always just been on the cutting edge of weird.
Yeah, I did my Reiki training in 2003 and it was still pretty weird.
It was still pretty weird. Yeah, it was. It was very kind of fringe back then. And it was really helpful to me because it gave me like a language and understanding of the chakras, of, the layers of the energy field, of what I was seeing, what I was experiencing in my sessions. And then it was a pivot point for me because I started working with all of my clients on a Reiki table. And I found Reiki to be very supportive. I don't do only Reiki. My whole Reiki sessions are really, it's a psychic reading, a soul reading really that I do. And the Reiki is supportive for whatever is coming up to help maybe release some stuck energy or to support you if you cry or if there's an emotional release of some kind. Or I always clear everybody's energy field and sort of balance things. I'm like, while we're here, let's do that because I can see it all. And I'm like, let me just fix that. I just gonna. Yeah. And it's been super fun. Mostly, actually, I work remotely now and I don't do too many private sessions anymore. So I'm mostly teaching, mentoring, and writing.
Yeah, we'll get into your books. 4 books. Amazing. This is cool because obviously in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, basically up until maybe 2020, a lot of this stuff for the majority was in-person sessions.
Yeah, 100%.
And then COVID happened, everyone started going online. And I think it opened up a whole world, even people who were part of the healing arts and Reiki and quantum healing and different modalities, maybe weren't that convinced that online would work or distance would really work.
Yeah.
But it really does.
It
and
really
I'm
does.
so curious what your interpretation is. Like, what is happening with online Reiki or distance healing or online quantum healing? How is it so effective?
I think that, and they've done like quite a lot of studies on this actually that show that distance healing works just as well, if not better, than in-person healing. So there's some science backing that, which I think is fascinating. And for me, it was like, I was definitely in that camp of it only is going to work if I put my hands on people. I really loved that aspect. I had a very busy in-person practice for, 25, 30 years. I was 20, 25 clients a week for that many years.
Amazing.
And so I was quite skeptical. I knew long distance healing work, but I was like, would long distance attunements work? I was teaching Reiki. I don't know. What happened for me is that I wrote the book of The Art of Psychic Reiki and came out in 2018. It was a big bestseller. And then COVID happened. And those two things kind of happened together. And that allowed me to, I closed my brick and mortar office like everybody else did and put my programs online. I'm like, I don't think this is going to work. But it did. Because I think partly because everyone was doing it, everyone had to do it, and it made us all try it. And then when we did, I think I still see in-person clients a couple times a month, but the rest of that, I'm totally working remotely. And it's so liberating. I worked with some people in New Zealand and Australia and India and China. And I'm like, how cool is that? That we can expand and go global. It opens the doors and it gives access to people who might not have it otherwise. They're not finding a Reiki practitioner in their neighborhood. And so I think it's been an equalizing factor. I'm so glad it happened in a way. I mean, not glad the pandemic happened, but I'm so glad that we opened to the reality of that it does actually work.
Yeah, it's incredible. What's the difference between Reiki and quantum healing?
So I also teach quantum healing and I do quantum healings. In fact, I'm running my first quantum healing course starting next week. So exciting. Cool. But Reiki is a vibrational healing. So Reiki and all the healing modalities, recent healing modalities like sound healing, tuning forks, homeopathy, every healing modality mostly has been vibrational healing. And it uses vibration, like almost like sound waves or vibration waves to impact. And it works on the physical body, the emotional body, the mental body, sometimes into the spiritual body and the light body, sometimes. And that's been fine because most of our problems, most of our issues and blocks are in those first 3 bodies. Like we've got plenty of work to do there, to resolve our stuff. But quantum healing actually works with light. So it works with almost like photonic light. And so it's speed of light versus the speed of sound. And so it's much quicker. It seems to be multidimensional. So it works across dimensions. It wasn't until I started doing quantum healings that I started seeing people. I've always been able to read people's past lives. But all of a sudden I was seeing their off-planet lifetimes. I'm like, oh my God, you lived on this planet that you were like some other being. And so I was able to access the records through the quantum field, like all the possibility sets, all of who we have been always through our whole entire incarnational cycle, not just here on planet Earth. So I think it works very quickly. So it's super fast. Like what used to take 10 years of therapy back in the 80s. Now, I mean, even Reiki speeded that up and all the healing methods did. And now it can be kind of instant, like much deeper. So it seems to get to the root of things, whether that's something that happened in your childhood, something that happened through your lineage or through your past lives. I find those things come together into like a knot that needs to be unpicked. And quantum healing gets right to it.
And because it uses the light as part of the healing technique.
That's right. It's using light. It's also, for me, the way I do it, it's a channeled healing. And Reiki is, in a way, like in Reiki, we're accessing the universal life force energy where, the attunement process opens us to this universal life force energy that we then move through us. But there's more of us involved in a Reiki session. So when I do quantum healing sessions, it feels like fully channeled. Like I just show up, I like open the gateway and these high level quantum guides come in and I'm like, okay, I just step away and they do it. Yeah. So it's a much more channeled experience. And yeah, it's super interesting. I learn a lot. And I feel like there's a lot more. I'm learning about energetic anatomy, the sort of the quantum energy anatomy that goes way beyond. We have 7 chakras above our head and 7 chakras below our feet and way more layers to the energy field than I had ever experienced or seen before. So I think that's always been there, but my ability to perceive that is what's new.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. That's so interesting. I love to hear that you're like also personally expanding and growing. Do you find that this is all experiential? Are you like intuiting these things, or are there resources that you're tapping into that are helping to explain them?
It's all me. I know a lot of people are doing quantum healings. I don't know what other people are doing. I only know what I'm doing. It's like different paths up the same mountain. And I just think it's part of the evolution of human consciousness that is allowing it's like quantum healing is a shift in consciousness. So we talk about Reiki and vibrational healing is very 3-dimensional healing. Like it's working on the 3-dimensional world, the solid world. Then we go into the 4th dimension, which is really like the psychic world, the working with your spirit guides, opening your psychic stuff, working sort of through the astral plane is the 4th dimension. And the 5th dimension, in order to get there, the only way to get there is to shift your state of consciousness. So it's deep consciousness work and connecting. I think it's coming more from our higher self. Like we're releasing our identity from our ego self into our higher self. So we're like, yeah, I have an ego, but that's not really me. What's really me is this higher self. And when we're up in the higher self, we have access to these higher frequencies. So in order to get to quantum healing, you have to shift your state of consciousness. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
And it's different. It's different than a technique. Like, okay, they're techniques, but technique is not the thing. You know what I mean? It's this shift in state. That's the thing.
Yes. I think this is where a lot of people get a little bit lost or confused, because it's one thing to say, okay, to reach the 5th dimension, you have to shift your consciousness and connect to your higher self. But then, if you're operating from a 3-dimensional plane, you think, well, how do I do that? And then you try to do a bunch of techniques like maybe meditation or yoga or qigong or tai chi or, I don't know, toning or singing or I don't know. There's so many things you could do. But how do you make that shift in your consciousness from like this 3D to this 5D so that you're opening up this channel?
I think all those things are helpful. So I think spiritual practice is incredibly important and that it's really hard to do without spiritual practice. But I think it's sort of like there's 2 sides of it. One of them is self-repair. So we have to go back and we have to heal our trauma. Because trauma is heavy. Trauma is dense and it keeps us weighted down in the 3rd dimension, weighted into the physical, mental, emotional bodies. And we have to clean up, I would say clean up on aisle 5, like whatever it is that traumas that are still really heavy in your being. We all have them. Every single human on the planet has, as far as I can tell. I mean, maybe I'll meet somebody that hasn't been traumatized, but I haven't yet. And I've done 15,000 sessions or more. And I'm just constantly in a state of amazement over the horrible things that have happened to us and the incredible resilience and strength of the human spirit. in the same breath, like, whoa. So whatever your traumas are, get to work on it. Somatic work is really important. I think the key thing is you've got to learn to regulate your nervous system and come out of fight or flight. You need to learn how to regulate your emotions so you're not constantly reactive. If you're reactive and nervous system triggered, you're in 3D. Like, you just are. And I swear, this is the topic of the book that I'm writing now. It's about inner child healing. It's called Sacred Reparenting, and it's book number 6 for me. So that one, I wish I had a magic wand I could wave over the entire world and teach everyone instantly how to regulate their nervous system and regulate their emotions. Because I swear, we would have no more war. We'd have no people suffering. All the things we see on the news just wouldn't be happening for the most part if people were regulated. So whatever you got to do. And that's a lot. I mean, it's not an easy task to do that. So we do nervous system regulation. We clean up our trauma. We dedicate ourselves to spiritual practice. And with time, now is a beautiful time to do it because we're on this accelerated path, the ascension, the shift, whatever you want to call it. We can do it so much quicker than we've ever been able to do it now. And now it's faster. So I think if you set your mind to those things and then put in the practice, it takes a little bit of discipline. Well, I'm a martial artist. I've got a couple of black belts. How did I get it? I worked my ass off and I showed up in the dojo every single day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there needs to be some discipline, a little bit of discipline.
That's right. That's it. And so if you're disciplined with that stuff, and then I think that the 5th dimensional frequency that's coming in is really the frequency of joy, unconditional love, unity consciousness. Can you step out of the polarity of hate? You got to stop hating, and doesn't matter who you hate. You can be full of righteous anger or know you're right and be full of hate. And that's a very 3D thing. So sort of, rising above that, go up into the eagle's nest, as Pamela Gregory says. She's my favorite astrologer. And she says, be in the eagle's nest, like looking down into the world. You got to rise above the polarity to shift our consciousness too. So what can you do to bring more joy into your life? What can you do to be full of inner peace, to be out of hate and into unity? And we know we're in 5th dimensional consciousness when we feel joy.
Yeah.
When we feel like you lose track of time and you're sort of in the flow, you're in a flow state. And you're like, you're not thinking about you. You're just sort of at one, whatever you're doing. That's it. That's what the 5D quantum consciousness feels like. And we've all had moments of it, right? What can we do to cultivate more of those?
I think tapping into that sense of joy is really, really crucial. And sometimes we get so serious even about our spiritual practices or whatever it is we have our minds set to, that it almost kills the joy of the practice. And then the practice doesn't actually do what it's there to help you do in a weird way.
In a weird way. It's so true. And so I think it's like 50% working through the density of our stuck feelings, of our trauma, of our physicality, working through the density, and then 50% cultivating joy. And it's not a static thing. I can be in that flow state, in that high joy vibration, and then I get triggered and I'm like, okay, and then I fall out of it and I'm like, okay, I know what my tools are. I use my tools. I meditate, I journal, I tap, I breathe, I cry. It's for me more about really sitting with it, really allowing myself to fully experience all the feels.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, okay, it passes and I'll do something fun and joyful and I'm back in that state. Having a high level of consciousness is exhausting. So I take a nap every day because I can't.
Yeah, napping's so helpful for nervous system regulation.
There gets to be like halfway through the day and I'm like, I can't do this. And I just have to check out for 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And I take a nap. And I'm like, I feel better now. And then I can go back.
I'm a big nap proponent.
Oh my God. I take a nap every single day because I need to shut my whole system down and reboot it.
Ancient cultures had siestas. I think there's wisdom to this.
Yeah.
My grandfather, he always said that he used to come home at lunch. He was an insurance salesman and like a mutual fund salesman. So he'd be out of the office meeting with people. And then he'd come home for lunch. He'd have his lunch, take a 20-minute nap, and then go back to work. And he was like, yeah, you need your 20-minute power nap.
You do. That's so funny. My grandmother was the same. And my grandmother's doctor told her she needed an hour lie down after lunch every day.
Wow.
And God bless him because she had it on her prescription.
Yeah.
And then she just would show it to everybody. She's like, my doctor told me I'm
Leave me alone. Yeah, I think there's some
God bless
wisdom
her.
to that. I think it again, it helps with that nervous system regulation too, right? We
Yeah.
need to have those moments of softening, of down
Yeah.
regulating.
That's right.
If someone wants to, you have this, I think it was maybe your first book, Awakening Your Psychic Abilities.
Oh, the first
Third
one
book?
is, that's the third one. The first one is The Art of Psychic Reiki. And then I wrote one for empaths called Energy Healing for Empaths. And then my third one is Awakening Your Psychic Abilities. Yeah.
Okay. So if someone wanted to awaken their psychic abilities, how would they do that?
It's such a great question, and it really is possible. So I really think psychic ability is an ability like athletic ability, like musical ability, like we all have some, but we don't look at professional athletes or professional musicians and think they didn't study. We know they worked, how hard they worked to get there. And anyone can do psychic development if you're willing to put the work in, willing to put the time in. You can take whatever we have as humans. It's part of our innate human nature. I don't think we would have made it out of the caves. We wouldn't have evolved past caveman without a strong intuition and strong psychic abilities. So there's some really easy ways you can start. And my first suggestion is to start what I call the psychic journal. Get a journal. You can use a 99-cent composition book and call it your psychic journal. But I actually did publish one, and it's called the Psychic Awakening Journal.
I was going to say, I think you have a psychic awakening journal.
I do, yeah. But any old notebook will do, and you just start recording your psychic experiences. Maybe you write your dreams in there if you remember your dreams. If you pull cards, you put them in there. Anytime you see signs and omens, in they go. When you have a aha moment, it goes in. Or if you have those first impressions when you meet somebody, or that you find yourself saying, I don't have a good feeling about that, or I knew that was going to happen. Write it in the journal, because these moments are very ephemeral. They're a bit like dreams. And we can have these massive aha moments where the mysteries of the universe and who we are explained to us, and we literally forget like an hour later. They're very ephemeral, just like a dream is.
Yeah.
So I just promise you're going to be amazed how psychic you already are if you start doing that. And then you can claim psychic brownie points, when something happened. And you're like, I have a feeling this is going to happen. It happens. You can look back in your journal and be like, I do. That was going to happen. Yeah. And so I think paying attention to it, recording it is something that we start with. And then we want to spend more time in the alpha state. So our psychic ability, our intuition comes through the alpha brainwave state. And we're spending most of the time in beta brainwave, or thinking and talking and cogitating. And the next one down, the alpha brainwave state, is that daydreamy, creative. It's like where we're the most creative, most intuitive. It's a bit daydreamy. And we need to spend more time there, quiet time. Our world is so noisy. I mean, we don't get very much quiet time. So turn off the TV, don't have any music on, like quiet. And then a lot of times we'll go into alpha, like meditation is fine, that works. But a lot of times we go into alpha when our hands are busy and are like washing the dishes, driving a car, walking the dog, folding laundry. It's the shower. People get their best psychic hits in the shower, because the shower puts you right into that alpha state. So here's a really good thing to try. Write a question in your psychic journal. And if you don't know what's question, just ask for more clarity. That's the question. Can I have more clarity about X, Y, and Z? And then go mow the lawn, walk the dog, take a shower, and sort of forget about it. Stare out the window and watch the grass grow. When you're in that more daydreamy state, just keep half your mind's awareness on what you're experiencing. Like, did you have sudden thoughts that float through your mind? Like, well, I don't know why I'm suddenly thinking about that. Or why am I thinking about that person? Or we might have an aha moment, or I'm like, oh, that's the thing, and then you write that down, because if you don't, you'll forget it. And I think that is such a powerful way that anybody can do. I call it the bathtub oracle, because I like taking baths. So
nice.
Write your question, get all in your bathtub and everything, get all groovy, and then wait while you're in the bath for that moment to arise inside of you. And that's an incredibly powerful way to access both our psychic and our intuitive hits.
Yeah, it's interesting. You almost have to stop thinking about it in order to have that answer or that intuition come up.
Yeah, because thinking is the beta brainwave. Thinking is the left side of the brain, the analytical side of the brain. And all of our psychic experiences are happening on the right side of the brain, the intuitive, creative side of the brain, and they're all happening in the alpha brainwave state. So we have to actually stop thinking.
Yeah.
And that's why sometimes if you're an overthinker, giving your hands knitting, dishwashing, repetitive things, it's like giving your brain a Rubik's Cube and going to make it sit in the corner. And that kind of opens this other side of our being, really, of our psyche, which is where all the psychic answers are.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, so now we've opened up this door, this window, this channel. We're maybe receiving some information. How do we know if the psychic or the intuitive hits we're getting are correct or are right? And they're not just like imagination or
just the crazy stuff we make up in our own heads. Yeah. Or our own inner neurosis.
How do we know it's real?
I think the first thing is that the first thing that comes to your mind is usually right. Let's say you're asleep at night and you feel the presence of a spirit in your room. And the first thing you think is, oh, it's dead Uncle Fred. He's just coming by to say hi. And then your mind's like, oh, what if it isn't? What if it's something scary? What if it's not that? What if I'm wrong? Oh my God, there's a spirit in my room. Like, we go kind of down the rabbit hole of doubt. And once that happens, we've lost our connection. So the first thing you think is usually right is true. That's the thing. And then the other thing is the real thing will have very little emotional trigger to it, So if you're super emotionally charged about it, it's probably not the real thing. Even if it's something that you think you'd be upset about, there's like a neutrality to it or a quietness to it. And one of my clients or students, she was a mom. She had 5 kids and she was kind of an anxious mom. So she was always worried about her kids. She told me this story about how one night she got up in the middle of the night, 2:00 in the morning, didn't think about it. She wasn't anxious. She just put on her boots and her coat. She got in her car. She started driving around. And she was like, my son's not home. And she's driving around. She drives around these back roads, no cell phones, back roads, woods in New England, middle of the winter. And she finds her kid pulled over on the side of the road with a blown out tire, no cell phone, in the middle of a snowstorm, And she's like, there you are. And then she said she did not feel one speck of anxiety, even though normally she's an incredibly anxious mother. There's kind of that emotional neutrality. And then the other thing is I think we can do is use some of our divination tools to get confirmation. So I'm a big fan of the pendulum, and you can get your pendulum to give you a yes, no, I don't know answer. Is it Uncle Fred? Yes, no, I don't know. You can also use muscle testing if you like that better, or dowsing rods people sometimes use. Those ones will give you straight up yes, no, I don't know. And then oracle cards sometimes to create a bridge, but especially when you want to kind of work with your spirit guides or you're looking for more in-depth, like the pendulum. It's not really good for divination. It is good for the yes, no, I don't know. But our lives are too complex to put into a binary, yes, no. But maybe we pull some oracle cards or runes or the I Ching, whatever your divination tools are, to kind of give you confirmation. And when we get, I think it's Uncle Fred. Is it Uncle Fred? And we constantly get that feedback, that yes, it is. The pendulum says so. I'm still not sure I'm going to muscle test. Yeah, the muscle testing says so. I'm still not sure I'm going to pull a card. Yeah, the card says it is. When we get all that feedback, we learn how to trust ourselves. We learn what it feels like when it's right and when when we're just making it up.
Yeah, I love that. I think there's something too about noticing how your body's feeling, or I know a lot of people feel heat or cold or tingles or like a magnetic kind of feeling, or there's also somatic cues or clues, isn't there?
Yes, and that's what I call the truth signal. Everyone has a truth signal, and sometimes people cry when they hear the truths, people get the goose flesh, or like you said, all those other, that was a great list, by the way, of all the other somatic things that we have. And I think knowing what your truth signal is, sometimes I get that flies walking in my hair feeling, but especially when there's spirits around. And so if you feel I know what it feels like in my gut when it's right, when it's a real hit. And I know what it feels like anxious and squirrely when it's coming out of my anxiety. So knowing your truth signal, that somatic thing, is super important. And it's also why I'm so insistent about making sure you're in your body, because if you're not grounded and embodied physically in your body, you're going to miss that.
Yeah.
And our bodies are an incredibly powerful psychic sense, the somatic psychic sense.
Yeah.
It's always right, never lies, always knows what's going on, especially in regards to your safety, right?
Yeah, it's picking up so many like clues or cues and signals and senses that our mind, your conscious mind, there's a book called Your Body is Your Subconscious.
Yes.
And I think it's totally true.
It is totally true. It's totally true, that instinctual self. And that instinctual self is always reading the room, and it's scanning, particularly for physicals, for safety, because that its function,
Yeah.
is to keep us safe. And it's really wise. It always knows what's going on. And if you're not in your body, you're going to miss a lot of really powerful psychic information.
Yeah. What have you noticed with maybe clients that you've worked with or people you've worked with who aren't in their body, who are, I don't know, I think it happens a lot, especially with trauma in the past. People like want to go up and out and escape their body.
Yeah.
And sometimes, interestingly, even use their body to escape their body.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're going to do drugs or do mind-altering drink, that we're using our body to escape our body. And I think, of course, it's a trauma response. I think it's also like dissociation has a lot of roots to it. Like super empathic people sometimes learn to dissociate as a way of sort of a shut-off valve from when they're feeling overwhelmed. And we have the illusion when we're dissociated that we're safer, but in truth, we're not. We're really way more at risk when we're dissociated. So I think it's a habit thing. So you can have a habit of being dissociated, but you can change that habit. And so grounding practices, earthing practices, being outside barefoot, earthing shoes, grounding shoes. I have a grounding mat under my desk. So when I'm doing these interviews, I got my bare feet on my grounding mat. And grounding practices of embodiment is, so I sort of break it into two things. So embodiment is being fully in your body, and grounding is then being connected to the earth. And we can change the habit of doing that. And sometimes we need somatic healing work, especially if you've had a lot of physical trauma. And then being in your body is painful and scary. And you get in your body, you remember your trauma, you're like experiencing it. Then we might need somatic healing practices. For people, I think everyone needs to do it. Cranial sacral work or somatic experiencing or core energetics or Rolfing. There's a host of beautiful somatic practice, but you got to get in the body and release the trauma out of it. And then we're safe to inhabit our body. Then we feel good about being inside.
Yeah. Do you think these types of practices, like I know a lot, like the somatic practice, I totally agree, I think is so helpful, learning to be with the emotion and be with the sensation and really connecting into your body. Is there something about protecting your energy field or your energetic field that comes with embodiment? And then what about clearing your energy field? Like, how are those two things different?
And they're so connected. So I think part of our being in our body is having and practicing really good energetic hygiene, that we all need daily, hourly energetic hygiene. And what I mean by that is that's working with your energy field, like you said. So my process, and I use sort of a breath and a visualization practice of breathing myself back into my body, using my breath and my visualization to clear the energy that I picked up from other people. The more sensitive you are, empathic you are, the bigger a deal this is. Otherwise, you get to the back of Costco and you're like, I can't remember my name or where I parked my car. And I'm crying and I have to leave, And so we don't want that to happen. So before you go in, this is me anyway, before I go into Costco, I do this ground, clear, protect. I'm getting embodied. I'm clearing my energy field. I'm putting my protections on. Halfway through Costco, when I'm done with Costco, in between clients, if I know I'm going into a dicey situation, I'm dealing with a conflict, or I'm around somebody I know is going to sort of drain my energy, I know I'm responsible for managing my energy, for this energy hygiene. And that becomes a habit. Like you wash your hair, you brush your teeth, take a shower, you do your energy hygiene practice. I think as sensitives, that gives us freedom to be out and about in the world without taking on damage or repairing the damage if we do. And then suddenly you want to get off your couch and maybe be a bigger part of the world.
Yeah, it can be pretty overwhelming if you're picking up all the different
Yeah.
energies and feelings of people around you.
For sure.
How do you put up that energetic field? Is it just through intention, or is there something that you do, a ritual that helps to create that boundary?
I use visualization because I'm a good visualizer. I start the whole thing with imagining that a beam of light is coming in the top of my head, and that's shining right down into my heart. And that beam of light is coming from my higher self, my spirit guides, from divine source directly. And I'm like, well, whatever's in my heart. So I breathe that light in, and on the exhale, I release it, because we hold a lot of energy that we pick up from other people in our hearts. So then I bring it down into my belly. And the belly is a lot of times where we hold the contact negativity that we get from Costco or being around rowdy people. And so I bring it down into my belly, fill the belly with light, exhale down your legs, down your feet, and into the earth. And I have a little prayer, just ask the earth to compost that. The earth is good at transmutation. So just compost it. Then I bring myself into my tailbone, that light breathing in. And when I come into my tailbone, I'm like, okay, I'm fully in my body. All of a sudden I can feel my body again. I'm like, oh my God, I have legs. I forgot, like, for a minute, I couldn't feel them. So I'm like, okay. And then I can feel heavy. I'm like, all right, I know I'm grounded. So then I use some of that same divine light to imagine, pretend, or visualize that I'm inside my own bubble. That bubble is really the boundary layer of your energy field. So the boundary layer of your energy field is kind of like your skin. Like your skin is the boundary of your body, and it keeps the world out and all the rest of you, the gooey bits of you on the inside.
Yeah.
And this boundary layer keeps the energetic world on the outside and your energetic self on the inside. So it's like an eggshell. Or you can imagine an eggshell, a crystal ball, a castle wall, whatever image works for you. And I sort of hold an intention that I'm going to allow in energy that's supportive of me, and non-supportive energy is going to stay on the other side, and nothing crosses my boundary without my permission. And that kind of like beefs up your energy field. It makes your energy field stronger, more solid. And especially if you're an empath, that boundary layer is naturally more porous. It's a bit spongy, which is why we call empaths psychic sponges, because they are really absorbing the energy from other people. And we want to go from the habit of being a sponge to the habit of being better boundaried. And when we're better boundaried, you can get up off your couch and go outside and do the things that you came here to do. That energetic boundary gives us sort of a leg to stand on in the world, so we can do the harder work of setting harder boundaries, because we still sometimes have to say no. Yeah. Boundaries is just knowing what you're a yes and what you're a no to, and finding really good ways to communicate that. But if your energetic boundaries are wishy-washy, your other boundaries are going to be wishy-washy. And if your energetic boundary is strong, you have a leg to stand on to create stronger boundaries in all the areas of your life.
Yeah, that's so wise. It's so interesting to think about that when we have trouble creating those other boundaries, maybe it's because our energetic boundary is also a little leaky.
Yeah. And it's easier to fix that. And it's instant. You can go through that meditation and like instantly feel, okay, I'm cleared. I'm grounded. I got rid of the energy that wasn't mine. I'm back in myself. Okay, there's my boundary. I'm good. I don't know. I do it in like 10 breaths. And then I'm like, okay, now I'm going to have the conversation. Now I'm going to do the thing, because I've got a leg to stand on.
How do you keep that channel open, or that psychic, intuitive energy open while you're creating those strong energetic boundaries?
I think that's sort of inside my intention of non-supportive energy staying on the outside, supportive energy staying on the inside. And it's permeable. We don't want to set up a boundary that's impermeable, because then we can't feel anything and we can't get our psychic messages. And it feels terrible, actually. We'll feel isolated and cut off from everything, cut off from the world. It needs to be semi-permeable, but allowing in what we want it to. So if you want it to allow in psychic information, that's fine. It is not good to be unboundaried in a psychic reading. It's not good for you. It's not good for your client. No one's really safe. You're not safe and your client's not safe if you're unboundaried in a psychic reading.
Yeah, what would happen?
Well, you might leak all your energy all over your client, and they might leak all their energy over you.
Right.
And there's sort of this energetic merge that happens, which is not safe in a therapeutic sense, As a practitioner, we need to be inside of our own self and to mind our own boundaries, and people will feel it when it's a boundary violation. And
Mhm.
people will feel it that way and they won't feel safe around you as a practitioner, which is not good.
Right. Maybe then you become that energy vampire.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're sucking the energy out of your
That's
clients.
right. I know. Nobody wants to do that. But if we're not minding our boundaries, that's what happens.
Yeah. How do you
Yeah.
like get your energy? I mean, for people who maybe are feeling a little hesitant or a little seen maybe about their lack of energetic boundaries, how can you draw energy from the earth or from other
Mhm.
sources rather than people? Because I think a lot of humans really draw their energy from other people because it's like our most instant resource of energetic connection. But there's other ways.
We've never been taught what our
Mhm.
true source energy is. So we're constantly stealing energy from other people, and it's kind of gross. So we got to stop doing that. This is all about what my book, Energy Healing for Empaths, the entire book is on this topic, by the way.
Mhm.
So there are two sources of energy we have. You said one of them, the earth, and divine source, God, divine source. Those are the two sources that we have access to all the time. And I was saying, like, I draw energy down from divine source, but we can also go the other way. Sometimes I go the other way, and sometimes I do both. So I'm pulling in energy from divine source until I feel sort of imbued with this divine love. And then I'll switch, and pull earth energy up through my body. And our energy runs that way naturally. That's how the energetic circuits. We have the Shakti or the Kundalini energy that comes up, and we have the Shiva, this other form of energy that's coming down, and they're constantly sort of like an AC/DC circuit. There's one channel running one way, one the other way, and they're always sort of spiraling around each other. That's our natural state of energy flow. So we can pick either or both. And if you want to talk to your guides and you get some more psychic, connect to the downward frequency. If you want to be more grounded and more filled with more life force energy, more vitality, pick the upward or pick both. And we can tap into those anytime. They're never ending. When we study Reiki, for example, it opens the circuits, it opens the energetic currents in us and allows us to connect constantly with the divine energy, with universal life force energy. So that's a beautiful part about studying Reiki. But I think when we do that, when we're always connected to that and we're boundaried so we're less leaky, we have so much more vitality.
Yeah. Yeah, so powerful. And I guess also, what is when you open that channel as a Reiki practitioner, you've received that attunement, you're drawing that energy from the universal energy or from life force energy. How does that connect in with your psychic abilities? Or what's the difference between psychic Reiki and just regular Reiki?
I mean, the difference is that psychic Reiki, and that's sort of my own invention, like I sort of coined that term, is really just Reiki training plus psychic development. So when, in Reiki level 1, when I teach psychic Reiki, I'm adding the energy hygiene practices and the boundary practices. And it's really good for empathic people, which in my opinion, every Reiki training should have energy management practices. And it's not canon. It's not part of traditional Reiki training. So it's kind of not there. And then in Reiki 2 and Reiki 3, it's more connecting with psychic impressions and opening, because that Reiki 2 attunement just pops your pineal gland open, something about those Reiki 2 symbols, and whatever psychic you have is going to activate. And when I wrote that book, it was 2018, it was pretty radical. People were like, how dare you combine these two? And I got hate mail for, the concept. And
Wow.
yeah. And because I was teaching Reiki classes and psychic development classes all the time. And people would take Reiki and they take psychic development. So to me, it seemed like a perfect blend. As healers, don't we want to fully access our intuition and our psychic ability in a powerful and ethical way? Because it gives us more tools to use for our clients. Like I always say, yoga, Reiki, and meditation are the 3 gateways into our psychic ability. So when we do a lot of Reiki, we do a lot of yoga, we do a lot of meditation, our psychic's going to pop open. And I had this Reiki student who was like, well, I was doing Reiki for a while and I stopped because I was having these incredibly intense psychic experiences. And I went to my Reiki teacher and asked her what to do. And she just told me to cut it out. She's like, just knock that off. That's not part of Reiki. Stop doing it. I don't know what that is, but that's weird and scary. So cut it out. So I just backed away from it. She was overwhelmed by her psychic experience and not getting any help or training or mentoring about what to do about it. And she stopped. And it was sad to me because she was such an incredibly talented healer. She was working in hospice. She was volunteering hospice work. And of course, she's got like mediumship ability. She's seeing like dead people. She's seeing people's souls transition. She's seeing the angels come in. It was so beautiful what she was doing. And she's like, I quit.
Wow.
And I was like, that's sad. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I would say my mission in life is to create an army of healers to go out there and save the world. And it just made me sad that she quit because she didn't get the mentoring or the help that she needed to integrate her really powerful psychic skills into her really powerful Reiki. That's why I wrote that book.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's so incredible. Do you think there's like something like in that? I mean, a lot of people have a lot of fear around developing psychic abilities because maybe there's something like a little destabilizing or they fear like they'll go crazy.
Yeah.
How do you handle that?
It's the first thing I talk about in any of my psychic development classes is we're going to talk about fear. And, I hardly meet any of my psychic students that don't have some fear to work through. And maybe it's the fear they're going crazy. Maybe it's the fear that other people will think they're crazy or that they're going to call in negative experiences. Like somehow opening their psychic is like they're going to call every ghost in a 10-mile radius is going to move into their house, Or they had religious training that told them that was the devil.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people that are afraid of like demons and evil spirits and stuff.
We all watched a lot of horror movies and it just doesn't end well for the psychic in the horror movie.
It's true.
Those poor psychics in horror movies, it's not going to go well for them. You know that right from the start. And they're like, I don't want to be that. What? You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's also the witch wound too. I think
there's the witch wound. As well. Yes, people who have been persecuted for their gifts in their past lives. So we have to work through all of that. And we just roll up our sleeves and we address those things. Well, what are you afraid of? And what beliefs are you holding on to that maybe came from your family or came from your religious training or came from the horror movies? And is that what you really want to believe? Is that what you truly believe? Can we update our belief system? And I'm just so shocked. You think I wouldn't be by now, but I still am, by how deep and how profound and how many people have really serious PTSD around their psychic ability from when they were kids.
Yeah.
And that could be like, you just saw some scary crap when you were growing up, and I did. Yeah. I always used to say, do you want to actually see what that growly thing that lives under your bed actually looks like? Or you might have seen scary things walking through your house, or your parents might have really punished you or your religion might have really punished you. We carry a lot of wounds often that also need to be unpacked. And sometimes it's not just fear, but it's trauma, really, that needs to be handled like very sensitively, very tenderly. And I think when we do that, when we work that through, that creates like a platform. I also think there are unsafe psychic practices that we don't want to do. So there is danger. And we don't want to do the things that we see on paranormal TV because most of them are quite dangerous. And
like a seance or something? What's a dangerous psychic practice?
Like a Ouija board.
Yeah, okay.
Really bad news. Or like EVP sessions over and over again in the same place. Or the provocation. Like, hey, demon, get out here. Right. I'm going to kick your butt.
Yeah.
No, you know what I mean? Don't conjure demons. And when you do, don't call them out. There's some things in general paranormal. Like I always say, don't smoke a lot of weed and go into the abandoned mental hospital with your Ouija board on Halloween. Don't do that.
Yeah. Stay away from mind-altering substances and scary places.
Right. Yeah.
With divination tools.
Hey, don't do that. Don't conjure demons. Don't join cults. So there's some obvious things. And there's some because I was a martial artist and, I have kind of like this street smart, I teach psychic self-defense to all of my psychic students. Because I would never open someone up psychically without giving them some good psychic self-defense. And not to scare people, but I learned martial arts because I wanted to walk around the world and not be scared. So it's more like being street smart. If you know what not to do with some of the things we talked about and you have good boundaries and you know what to do, then we can be really safe. Just like if you're street smart, you can go to any big city anywhere in the world and be fine. Totally fine. Or you can get rolled. If you're not doing it smart, you could get rolled.
Yeah, there's some things you can do that can be provocative.
So that's it. And I think most of the time, I want to say 80% of the time, what we're protecting ourselves against is the energy of other people. Sometimes it's the places we occupy. And it's like Murphy's Law. puts me in the haunted hotel room and Airbnb every single time. I'm like, okay, that's just how that's going to go.
So there's people in there, beings in there that want to talk to you.
Yeah. And hotels, think about all the things that happen in hotels, all the life, all the good and bad and crazy stuff that happens in hotels. And that sort of hangs about. So I carry like a space clearing set and I clear it, just community service for, I want a good night's sleep. And it's community service for all the other people that are going to stay there. And then sometimes we encounter spirits that don't have our best interests at heart. Like, well, what's in the haunted Airbnb? You know? And it's not a big deal. We just have to know what to do and how to move them along. Street smart. And when we have those things, I think we're less scared. My whole point on that is if you have some good psychic self-defense, some good common sense, really, you don't have to be scared. I'm that scared of spirits. I've never been that scared. Even though I've seen some really crazy stuff, I'm way, way, way more scared of living people. Living people scare the crap out of me on a regular basis.
Yeah, exactly.
Spirits, not so much.
Yeah, you have your clearing kit. You can just send them onwards.
Like, move along, move along. People are what's scary, not spirits.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. One other question I have, because sometimes I think like you can see things, you have this visual gift, but not everyone has this visual psychic kind of gift. What are some other ways that people have these psychic hits, or like what's the most common way?
Well, the visual is actually the most rare, and it's kind of a pain in the neck. Like, it's not that easy. It's not that fun. And somehow we've confused, like we've mixed them up. Like people will say, well, I'm not psychic because I don't see anything. And I'm like, that's a blessing. Be glad you don't, you know? We have so many other psychics, and I think there's 9 of them. And maybe we hear things. That's really much more common. That's called clairaudience. And you will hear it generally as like a voice in your own head. You know what I mean? Or like a thought process that's going on in your own head. Or we have the knowing. I don't know why I know. I just know claircognizance, like a strong knowing sense. Those two often go together, clairaudience and claircognizance, and they're so powerful. They're so reliable. They're so useful, you know, and when they agree with each other, you should really listen. And then there's the feeling sense. I don't have a good feeling. I have a good feeling about that. Clairsentience. That often comes with emotional things too. Like, this place feels weird. Or what happened in this room? Like, it feels gross, or it feels like it feels sad. So we're constantly like feeling that. Empaths have that one. If you're an empath, clairsentience is going to be the strong one for you. We talked about the body sense, the somatic psychic sense. I actually feel like there's one in every one of our chakras. Our heart has, I made up a word for it, like clair-relational. Because our hearts are reading the relationship field. They're reading the room. They're reading the meta text in our relationships, you know? And then we have precognition, which is seeing the future and past, even the ability to see the past with past lives. And we have mediumship, which is a psychic gift. Mediums are psychics who specialize in talking to dead people.
Yeah.
So any of those, any and all of them can be, you might have all of them. You might just have one or two. And whatever you have, you can open the others if you're willing to put the work in to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so if someone wanted to put the work in, would they get your book, Awakening Your Psychic Ability?
Yeah, that's a really good place to start. Yeah, for sure. And then I think knowing some things about it, and then going back to what we talked about a while ago, which is making time to listen, making time to be quiet, doing some meditation, or doing the bathtub oracle. We have to know, we have to practice. The knowledge is in the book, but then the practice happens in the other things that we do, the psychic journal.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you're bringing it back to the practice, because I think especially in this information age, we're really into gathering as much information and knowledge as we can, but nothing really transforms or changes unless you start to put it into practice, right?
Sure. I mean, you can read a book about working out and lifting weights, but eventually you got to put the book down and go to the gym, you know?
Yeah.
You can read a recipe, but if you want to eat the meal, that's a different thing, right? So I think we need both. We need both the knowledge and the practice, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, please tell everyone where they can find you and where they can get all 4 of your books. And it sounds like you have 5 and 6 coming out.
Yeah, I do. So you can find me on my website, lisacampion.com. I have a lot of free resources, free classes there. I'd love it if you'd stop by and, leave me a comment. I have a YouTube channel that has a ton of more free resources on it. I have my own podcast called The Miracle of Healing, so check that out. And the books are just sold any place you can buy books. They're available there. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on the Finding Harmony podcast today. And it was so fun to connect with you and talk all of these things.
Such a fun conversation. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Oh, it was a pleasure. If today's conversation resonated with you, especially around trauma, healing, or reconnecting with your body's innate intelligence, I want to invite you to explore the work I do using spinal energetics. This is a powerful, multidimensional modality that blends Eastern energetic principles with somatic awareness and nervous system regulation. Whether you are carrying stored trauma or feeling emotionally overwhelmed, or perhaps just a sense of feeling stuck in old patterns, or knowing perhaps you're carrying things from your lineage, your ancestry, spinal energetics helps you to shift this energetic block at the root, at the source. It helps you to connect to your spine, to your breath, and most importantly, the energetic field, so that you're not holding the pattern in your body, but it can move. And as the energy moves, consciousness also starts to arise. These sessions are for anyone ready to release what's no longer serving them, reconnect with their truth, and create more space, more ease, more vitality in their body and life. If this is you, I offer in-person sessions and online spinal energetic appointments, which are incredibly powerful and effective, so that you can experience this work wherever you are in the world. I also offer in-person sessions when I am traveling and teaching and offering Ashtanga Yoga workshops in different locations around the globe. You can learn more and book a session through the link in the show notes. And if you're curious or have any questions, please reach out. I would love to connect with you and answer any questions you may have. You can find me on Instagram at Harmony Slater Official. And thank you for being here. Thank you for listening, for your time, for your support. I just encourage you to continue down this path of healing and awakening, and I cannot wait to connect with you more next time. That's it. We've concluded another episode of the Finding Harmony podcast. I just want to thank you so much for doing the work that changes the world, starting with yourself. It truly does make a huge difference. Please make sure you have your automatic downloads turned on wherever you listen so you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes. I have so much more magic I can't wait to share with you. Lastly, if you're on Instagram, I love connecting and hearing from you. So come on over and say hello at Finding Harmony Podcast. And you can also come say hello to me personally at Harmony Slater Official. Thank you again for being here. I cannot wait to share more with you in our next episode.